We're here on this beautiful day at the site of Colecta, which is not a very well known site, but a very ancient and powerful site in Ireland, connected of course to the ancient Druids and to the goddess Colecta. Strange name, Colecta. It's actually spelled Tlachtga. So Colecta was the daughter of Mag Ruth, and he was a druid, an ancient druid here in Ireland. And between Colecta and her father Mag Ruth, they created what was basically a flying wheel, or in terms of what might be referred to in the ancient Hindu texts, a Vimana. And it says in the Irish mythology that Mag Ruth and Colecta, and in actual fact they accredit Colecta more so with the creation of the flying wheel than her father. But it says that Colecta would fly to all the different mystery schools, if you like, all around the world, all the different ancient sites, and would collect all the information and bring it back to the site here at Colecta. And Colecta is also, as I mentioned, a goddess, and she's connected with this land, with this sacred site here, in the sense that it talks about how she had triplets, and how she died in fact in childbirth, giving birth to those children here on Colecta. And quite recently the site was actually excavated, maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, and they actually did find the remains of a child. It was quite interesting, to verify, if you like, the information of the child. Although the mythology does say there was 3 children. And so it's very interesting, she's connected, as I mentioned, with the flying wheel, or the Vimana, which is quite interesting. And also the fact that her father, it says, he was blind. So I'm sure that has some kind of a deeper meaning to that. So this site here as well is also connected to all the other sites, like for example Tara, Newgrange, Fawn Hill. So it's in the sight line. You can see so many sites of the other sacred sites from here, and also you can see Colecta from Tara as well, and Fornox, and many other sites that connect here in County Meath and Westmeath. And of course they connect because they're all connected by ley lines, geometric shapes and ley lines. Colecta, this site, the Hill of Ward, is also, it's connected to Halloween or Samhain, and it was here that the light of the fires were lit. So in Ireland was known as the Island of Flame, and at one point in the year all the fires would be extinguished and one fire would be lit, and that would happen at Samhain here at Colecta, at what we call Halloween. In fact, this place, the Hill of Ward, Colecta, is the birthplace of Halloween. This is where it originated. And so the fire would be lit on the hill up above where we're sitting here, but the light would be taken from the light of the sun, as a child would light a piece of paper with a magnifying glass from the light of the sun. I'm not saying they used magnifying glass, I'm just saying that the light was taken from the light of the sun, and the fire was lit. And so that would be the first fire that was lit in Ireland, and every household would come and take the fire from that sacred flame. And of course the reason that flame was sacred was because it was literally the Son of God on earth. So the process of everybody coming to this place at Colecta and taking the light of that fire and then redistributing it to every single household all over Ireland meant that the Son of God was alight and alive in every household and every ancient site and sacred site all over Ireland. And it was done, of course, at the 31st of October and coming into the 1st of November, which in the ancient calendar was coming into the winter's dark winter months. And so significantly, and it was to show that it was keeping the light of God, if you like, of the higher consciousness alive in each and every household throughout the whole island. So that's another powerful connection that this ancient site has, and not many people know that this site here is actually the origin of what in more modern times now, of course, we call Halloween.
It's worldwide now.
It's worldwide, yeah.
So it's a worldwide ritual.
It's worldwide, and it started here at Colecta. As I mentioned, it has 3 names: Colecta, the Hill of Ward, or the Hill of the Bird. So it's all referring to the same place. Colecta herself was the goddess.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very powerful, ancient, and drenched in history, if you like, and mythology, connecting
Rich.
to very rich, and of course connecting to the Book of Coming Forth by Light, because all the sites all over the ancient world are communicating the same higher dimensional information.
Yeah, actually,
left by ourselves, for ourselves in this time.
Mm-hmm.
It's an ancient wisdom it's a living ancient wisdom. It's not dead.
Physically here.
It's a living wisdom.
Remember it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, holographic.
So it's not a very well known site. It's a very out of the way type of site, but it's very peaceful, very beautiful, and the energy is very soft and very feminine energy, as you can imagine. We'll collect it.
On yonder hill, 'tis there I'd sit and cry my fill, till every tear would turn a mill. Isco day to a warning sloan. Shul, shul, shularun, shul go
So I just wanted to talk a bit today about the connection with these sites in Ireland. This site here is also known as the Hill of the Bard, and of course the Bard was the storyteller, the one who carried on the ancient wisdom through myth and mythology. And I just wanted to talk about how all these sites connect with the ones, of course, in Egypt. And they're connected through what I've talked about and what I talk about quite a lot, which is the Book of Coming Forth by Light. It's quite an important subject at any time, but it's quite poignant for the time that we find ourselves in now, I suppose. But the Book of Coming Forth by Light is laid out in, you might say, 12 hours. And it's known as the 12 hours of the night. And it's also 12 processes that the soul has to pass through. But the interesting thing is that it's in the 5th division of the Book of Coming Forth by Light that is the process or the hour where the weighing of the heart takes place. Now, in the first 4 hours of the Book of Coming Forth by Light, the soul has been engaged in the creation of the time-space matrix and the duality in which it has experienced the illusion of its reality. And it's when the soul moves into the 5th hour, which is also known as Ros Tau, the place where this process takes place is known as Ros Tau, the 5th hour, the weighing of the heart. And Ros Tau actually corresponds to the Giza Plateau, with the pyramids and the Sphinx. And so the weighing of the heart takes place in the Hall of Two Truths, or the Hall of Judgment, or the Hall of Osiris. It's the same thing. And the heart is weighed against the balance of the feather of Maat and the universal principles of Maat, which are to do with cosmic order, balance, justice, and equality for all. So we're talking about universal law and universal principles. And so in the Hall of Judgment, you have Osiris, who presides, who is the judge, if you like. You have Thoth, who presides over the weighing of the heart. And you have the 42, what's known as the 42 judges. 22 sit on either side. And you have the initiate itself. And you also have another character called Amit. And in the Book of Coming Forth by Light, Amit is known as the devourer, or the devourer of souls, which sounds kind of scary in a way.
It does.
But what the devourer is if you consider that in the weighing of the heart, the initiate, the one going through the process of their heart being weighed, they have to answer what's known as the 42 negative confessions of Maat. And the 42 negative confessions are, I'm just giving you examples for, like, I have not lied, I have not stolen, I have not coveted my neighbour's goods, I have not killed, and on and on.
They sound familiar.
And as you can see, they sound and did evolve to become the Ten Commandments. So in fact, all religions evolved out of this ancient knowledge, if you like. And so so the focus for the initiate in the Hall of Judgment is to have their heart to be as light as the feather of Maat. So the idea that we're talking about light here, we're also talking about the creation of the light body and the crystal energy grids and fields. So as I said, the first 4 hours deals with the creation of the illusion, if you like, of the lower dimensions. And the 5th hour in the weighing of the heart is to do with the activation of the heart. It's to do with the activation of the light body and the higher dimensional energy fields, the crystal consciousness grids, if you like. And all this information is written literally inside all the sites that exist all around the ancient world in the form of the standard unit of measurement that was used to construct the site and the actual symbols, glyphs that are on the walls and carved into the walls inside. So it's a language of number, shape, geometry and form, and a language that we're not all that familiar with decoding, if you like. But this is how this information is disseminated, and collectively, as I mentioned, it's written all over all of the ancient sites, left holographically, because all the information is in each site, but at the same time distributed throughout all the sites. So the idea of the soul having to recite the 42 negative confessions, and just as a side note, if anybody wants to kind of look into this more themselves, the 42 negative confessions also are related to the 42 books of Thoth. So, and to the geometry of the flower of life.
And would that be the 42 books of Thoth would be the emerald tablets?
Yeah, collectively, yeah.
Yes.
So the idea is not for the soul or the initiate to recite the 42 negative confessions randomly or ad lib. In other words, I have not stolen, I have not lied, I have not killed. The idea is not to just rhyme off those things when you're in the Hall of Judgment. The idea is to actually think about what you're saying. Mm-hmm. And if you have lied, then you're supposed to admit it. You're not supposed to say, I have not lied, I have not. But
not try to hide it.
Not try to hide it. But many initiates, if you like, at that point, are at the point of their soul evolution, if you like, their consciousness evolution, that they feel that they have to answer the 42 negative confessions in the negative way. In other words, I have not done this, I have not done that, I have not. And the thing about being in the Hall of Judgment, it's, even though I mentioned Osiris is there, Thoth is there, the 42 judges, they're all actually aspects of yourself. So you are the judge.
Right.
And therefore you can't lie. So if you're there saying, I have not stolen, and in the back of your mind and in your heart, in fact it's in your heart that you know you have stolen, you won't pass the test.
Right.
And this is where Amit, and Amit is known as the devourer of the souls, which I mentioned previously sounds terrible. But actually what Amit represents is the ego consciousness, is the ego that won't allow the initiate or the soul to admit when they have done something. And it's not that it's wrong, because there is no wrong or right. That's the duality.
Yeah, it's in the duality.
It's just lessons in learning. That's all. So the soul has to be at a certain point in its evolution that it understands that there is no right or wrong. That's the duality. So if the soul is at that point where they can say, yes, I have committed this, and this is the person that I committed it against, and I understand how I made that person feel, and I now balance the karma and any maybe cords or connections that were created because of my actions. And as long as you can go through all the 42 negative confessions and honestly answer in the negative if it's the truth, but admit if you have done something, and then you're free to pass on the way. And so collectively we are in a weighing of the heart. We're in the 5th hour of the book of Coming Forth by Light. And as I mentioned, it's also to do with the activation of the heart, because the heart is the higher consciousness. It's the consciousness of the higher self, the crystal consciousness, and the consciousness of the higher energy fields. As I mentioned previously, the previous 4 hours, the initiate is working on the construction of its illusion, the time-space matrix and the duality. So in the weighing of the heart, the 5th hour, this is at the point at which the initiate can pass on into the land of the immortal, which was known in ancient Egypt as the Netherland. It was also known as the Duat. In Ireland, it's known as Tirnanog. High Brazil, there was many different names. And so we can also say that at that point, the soul, having passed the weighing of the heart, and the heart being as light as the balance of the feather, and in alignment with the universal principles of Mat, of equality, justice, and balance for all life everywhere. At that point, the soul then can ascend. So I'm happy to bring you that piece of information today from this most beautiful place, from
site.
the energy of the goddess Colecta.
A triple goddess.
And on this beautiful day, of course.
Actually, I have a question. You know how you say in Egypt that all the temples have like a significance to like maybe like a chakra?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what like the Hill of Ward would be, or is it like connected to a specific chakra like here? Like it would be.
Mostly the sites in County Meath, for example, would represent the solar plexus. It's not just one particular site, in the same as in Egypt. So the sites going up and down along the Nile are known as the 7 seals of the Nile.
That's right.
So one area which would relate, say, for example, to one chakra could contain 10, 15 temples, you know?
Yeah.
So it's not just one particular temple, it's a whole area.
That makes sense.
So like, for example, in in Egypt, Luxor is the solar plexus.
Yeah.
And so all the sites on the east bank and the west bank of the Nile will represent the solar plexus. That's including the Valley of the Kings, the Valley of the Queens, the Ramesseum, Amenhotep III temple, Karnak temple, Luxor temple. They're all in Luxor. And so the same would go, say, for example, with Meath, for example.
Yeah.
We would say that the sites in Meath, Newgrange, Noath, Doath, Tara, all the Colecta, the sites here, would represent the solar plexus. Now some will cross in, the sites do cross one into the other. Some are slightly in maybe the sacral, and they connect, if you like. But generally we'll say that Meath, the area of Meath, would be the solar plexus.
Okay.
And what about Ishnok, which is the exact
Ishnak is moving into the heart.
I thought so. It was the heart.
Yeah.
Ishnok would be the heart chakra.
And so Ishnok would relate and connect to in terms of that would connect to the Giza Plateau.
Yeah.
And so it's quite interesting that the cat stone is there.
Yes.
And the big
Sphinx.
cat stone
Yeah.
at Giza, which is
my
the
gosh.
Sphinx. Yeah. And it's interesting as well that Ireland is divided in the same way as Egypt is. So we have Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland.
That's right.
And in Egypt it was divided in Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt.
Yeah.
So, and it's divided in pretty much the same way, There's far more of Upper Egypt, which is actually
Lower
what you
Egypt,
might think is Lower Egypt.
geographically, yeah.
And Upper Egypt is where
The delta is and everything.
Yeah. So Sorry, Lower Egypt is where the Giza pyramids are.
Yeah.
Upper Egypt is where Luxor and
Yeah.
all-
Aswan and all of that.
most of Egypt is actually Upper Egypt.
Hmm.
The smallest part is Lower Egypt.
Oh.
So it's divided in the same way, Northern Ireland is smaller than the Republic of Ireland, if
Yeah.
you know what I mean. So it has almost the same kind of ratio of division.
It's like balanced.
hmm So if anybody would like to contact me in relation to anything that I've been talking about, or in relation to quantum healings, I'm available for one-on-one quantum healings and online. And also I will be giving some workshops to do with what we have been talking about, to do with the geometry, the ancient mystery schools, and the alchemy of the creation of the light body and ascension, which is all the information that's contained in the mystery schools and the book of Coming Forth by Light. So the workshops that I run are to do with the translation of this information. As I mentioned, it's written in number form and geometry, so that's why the geometry is very important to understand for the higher level of understanding of all this information. So that's what the workshops are about. They're about uncovering the deeper level of this information. And of course the quantum healing is about delving into your own past experiences, your own past lives, and even present and future lives and timelines, which are very often connected with this ancient information, particularly anybody who comes to me. Every person is different, of course, every practitioner is different, but people who gravitate to certain people as practitioners is usually for a reason. And many people who come to me find they have past information and past lives to do with Egypt and even ancient Ireland and the mystery schools and alchemy. So I hope you enjoyed listening to that today, and that you found some deep and profound meaning in between my words, and possibly have the ears to hear beyond the physical words that are being said, because as I broadcast this to you, I broadcast the information from my heart to yours, so that will be a level at which you can listen to the information again and hear it from a deeper and more profound perspective. And I'm delighted to be able to bring this information, this valuable information to you today from this most beautiful place. And so I just want to say thank you, and